The man jumped out of the car in panic and immediately ran toward the distance, as if something terrifying was chasing him, but after only a few steps, a group of muscular men jumped out of the vehicle. Their eyes were filled with cruelty, weapons in hand. They quickly caught up and knocked him to the ground. Even then, the man kept crawling forward, fear written all over his face. But with his injured leg, he didn't get far. The criminals soon grabbed him. He tried to struggle, but his strength was gone. All he could do was get dragged back like a helpless animal. Angered by his escape attempt, the gang leader ordered his men to tie up the man's hands and feet. Then they tied him to the vehicle and dragged him across the ground. Using his suffering as a warning to the other refugees, a brutal message not to even think about escaping, the man was skin and bones. He couldn't survive such torture. Before long, he died. After that, the gang forced the remaining refugees up a nearby mountain. Once they arrived, instead of ordering an execution, the leader strangely told them to turn around and leave. The refugees were confused, but cautiously began walking into the forest. Suddenly, the leader pulled out a long weapon and opened fire on the fleeing group. It wasn't mercy at all. It was a deadly hunting game. The refugees panicked and ran in all directions. Then the leader ordered his men to shoot. Gunfire echoed through the area as people collapsed one by one. Only one couple managed to escape, but the husband, kind-hearted and unwilling to abandon others, told his wife to keep running while he went back to help the fallen survivors. Unfortunately, his wife was already terrified and lost control. Not far ahead, she slipped and fell into a deep pit. Hearing her scream, the man rushed back and immediately jumped in to save her. Just moments later, another refugee fell into the pit as well. The man knew the criminals would arrive any second. He quickly pulled his wife into a corner to hide. Before the other refugee could reach them, a gunshot rang out above. The couple froze in fear, barely daring to breathe, after checking the area and seeing no movement. The criminal prepared to leave, but suddenly, the woman fainted and splashed the water beneath her. That tiny sound gave them away. The criminal immediately returned and searched the pit again. Just as the man was on the verge of panic, the criminal was suddenly called back by his teammates and had to retreat. After listening carefully and hearing no more movement, the man dragged his wife out of the water. He looked around for an exit, but soon realized the pit had no way out. Desperate, he tried stabbing the dirt wall with a wooden stick, but the soil was too hard. He had no choice but to stop. His wife was still unconscious. He scooped up muddy water and gently splashed it on her face. The cold water woke her up. He told her the criminals were gone, but now they were trapped. Still shaken, the woman begged him not to rush. The enemies might still be nearby. Seeing how scared she was, the man hugged her and promised they would stay hidden for the night and escape in the morning. That night was freezing. Luckily, the man found a lighter on one of the fallen refugees. He gathered wood and started a fire. With that small warmth, they finally managed to rest. At sunrise, the man began searching for a way out. He found two sturdy branches and told his wife to tie their clothes around them, creating a rope ladder. They soaked the clothes in water to make them stronger. Once everything was ready, the man tied the branches together and began throwing them upward. After many failed attempts, he finally managed to hook the branches on the edge of the pit. Hope returned. Without wasting time, he grabbed the makeshift rope and started climbing, but halfway up, the branches began sliding inward. Just as he reached the top, the support suddenly slipped loose. He fell hard back into the pit. His wife rushed to help him. Without fabric protection, his knee was badly scraped. Luckily, she had survival experience and used cloth soaked in muddy water to slow the bleeding. Still, the pain was intense. Exhausted and hopeless, the man sat on the ground, blaming himself for failing to save his wife. Just then, rain began falling. The man burst into laughter. If the rain was heavy enough, the pit would fill with water and they could float out. But his wife dropped devastating news. She couldn't swim. The man helped her climb to the highest point of the pit. As the water rose, he spotted a long branch above and reached for it. Suddenly, his wife slipped and fell into the water. He immediately jumped in to save her, clinging to thin vines along the wall. They struggled to stay above water. As the water level rose higher, the man tried climbing upward, but the vines snapped. They fell back into the water. Fortunately, the man knew how to swim and managed to pull his wife up. Learning from the failure, he grabbed a stronger vine and let his wife climb onto his back. Using his body as support, he helped her reach the top. She made it out, but the man was completely exhausted. The woman rushed to find a branch to pull him up. When she returned, it was already too late. The man had sunk beneath the water. Heartbroken, she cried in despair. But in order to survive, she had no choice but to leave, lost. In the wilderness, she collapsed from exhaustion. Just as she was about to give up, She heard the sound of a car engine. Hope returned. She ran toward the road and successfully stopped a passing vehicle. But when the driver stepped out, her heart sank. Sitting in the passenger seat was one of the criminals. Terrified, she turned and ran, but she didn't get far. The driver struck her from behind and dragged her into the car. Her final attempt to escape had failed. The movie ends here. Thanks for your watching. Leave your comments below and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out.